Right, guys. Moving on to cricket. Of course, the Proteas have just wrapped up their one-day series. The ODIs and now the T20, which they lost fairly convincingly to India. India were really impressive. But I guess on the plus side, Rob, yeah, some sort of newish stars were born. I mean, Klaasen is impressed, and he's been included in the Test squad. And then yesterday, this Jonker guy, like another slogger, which is very useful in the one-day format.
Yeah, so the one benefit of this little exercise, we mustn't forget that, look, there are certain alarm bells. I mean, India won the ODIs and the T20s very convincingly at the end of the day. I wrote over the weekend that it's the first time that South Africa have lost on one single tour by a visiting, top power. They've lost both the T20 and the ODI portion of the tour, which is obviously a matter for concern and a little bit of a sort of a blow to our national pride. But South Africa rested an awful lot of their sort of core personnel because we all know that between the Indian Test series and the Australian Test series, there would be a certain wind down for some of our sort of key, especially the more experienced players who sometimes play too much cricket, and so they needed to have a little bit of a mental break. Unfortunately, that mental break is also mostly now because of injury. There's a race against time to get a lot of key players fit, for the start of the Aussie series, which begins on the Test series begins on Thursday at Kingsmead. So the turnaround is painfully quick. It's going to be a tough ask to just suddenly turn things over mentally. But as you said, the blessing was in blooding a lot of young players. Some made it, some didn't. I've still got a few doubts about the strength of our domestic competition. I think some guys are finding it hard to make the step up, but there were certain ones who did. Junior Dala bowled increasingly well in the T20 portion. As you say, Klaasen came through, produced a couple of very influential knocks, and his wicket keeping isn't too bad either, although I still think Quinton de Kock is a better keeper. Jonker suddenly bursts in for one match and makes sort of whistle stop 49 at a time when the game was really looked as though it had slipped away very, very fast. And South Africa in the end came very close thanks to his sort of defiance at the death. So he ticked a mental box. Whether he's a long-term answer, you never know in T20. Sometimes it could just be a once-off performance. Sort of some positives and some negatives to take forward. Difficult to know where we stand in our sort of white ball cricket, but of course a massive examination now as we go back into the red ball arena against the Aussies, who had a good prep against South Africa A, winning that match. They've had a nice little limb loosener, and will be ready for that first test.
Well, Garrett, I'm sure many of the cricket purists will feel this is the stuff now that really counts. Test cricket and against the old enemy Australia on home turf. I mean, that really is going to be an incredible series to watch.
Absolutely. March is going to be a fantastic month for Test cricket. You've got the Australians just coming off their Ashes victory against England, against South Africa, who've just beaten the #1 ranked Indian side. So it's really a clash of, I would say, the two best Test playing nations in South Africa. We can't ask for much more than that. It's 4 tests. It sort of lends itself to a 2-all draw. Unfortunately, it's not the best of 5, which I think most purists, as you mentioned, would like to have seen. South Africa, as Rob touched on, coming off this ODI and then T20 series, whereas Australia had a nice 3-day warm-up match against what I thought was a fairly strong South African A side. They won that game as well, so they'll be well primed for this match. I think South Africa won't mind if it's a bit rainy or overcast and the first test actually ends in a draw, because they've got a lot of injuries, concerns over key players, Faf du Plessis, AB de Villiers, Quinton de Kock. They're all coming off injuries. They might all be fit, but you're not ever sure if that little knee niggle flares up again. So there, and as well as a couple of others as well. Dale Steyn, we know he's going to be missing. Temba Bavuma's got an injury concern as well. So it could be a tough first test if the sun does shine in Durban. But really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fantastic to see those Australians, on our home soil. Steve Smith in fantastic form, as we saw during the Ashes. England really struggled to dismiss him at any stage. So it'll be interesting to see what our bowlers managed to do against him in particular.
And any sort of big rivalries that you kind of see sort of evolving, a bit of niggle, a bit of sledging. There's always a bit of that with the
I'm sure
Aussies.
there's going to be a lot of sledging. I think the Australians are pretty famous for that. The Australian bowling lineup, I think, is turned into a fairly formidable force at the moment. So you've got a couple of their key players, Mitchell Starc, for example, against Morne Morkel, Kagiso Rabada. It's a pity Dale Steyn's obviously not there, because it would have been great to see him going head to head against some of their quicks. But the bowlers, I guess, you've got to take 20 wickets to win a test match, so they'll be key. But the batsmen need to score the runs as well, and obviously finding that key balance between the two is going to be vital. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Thursday morning's first ball.
Right, gents, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.